Have you ever stopped to think why some people seem to learn faster, remember more, and connect ideas effortlessly, while others feel like no matter how hard they try, everything slips away the next day? What if I told you that this gap isn't about intelligence, talent, or even discipline, but about a method that was quietly pushed out of classrooms over time? A method that once shaped the minds of thinkers, inventors, leaders, and strategists. A method so powerful that when you use it, learning stops feeling like work and starts feeling like discovery. Imagine waking up knowing that today you won't just study, you'll actually understand, retain, and apply what you learn. Sounds too good to be true. That's exactly why you've probably never been taught how to do it this way. Think about how school trained you. Read, highlight, repeat, memorize, test, forget, over and over. But what if real learning was never about repetition and always about connection? What if the secret was not in how long you study, but in how you think while you study? Today, I'm going to show you a method that flips everything you know about learning upside down. A method that some of the most successful people in the world use without even realizing it. Entrepreneurs, artists, engineers, and creators who seem to just get it faster than everyone else. They're not smarter. They're just playing a different game. And once you see this game, you can't unsee it. Picture this. You're sitting in a classroom. The teacher is explaining something. You write it down. You go home. You read it again. You try to memorize it, but nothing sticks. Now imagine a different version of you. You hear the same lesson, but instead of writing it down, you start asking yourself questions. Why does this work like this? How does this connect to something I already know? Where would I see this in the real world? Suddenly, the information stops being dead words on a page and starts becoming a living system in your mind. That's the heart of the method. It's not about consuming information. It's about building a mental map. And here's the crazy part. This approach was once common. It was used in ancient schools of philosophy. It was practiced in early scientific communities. It was the foundation of how people trained their minds to think, not just to pass tests, but over time education systems shifted towards speed, efficiency, and standardization. And this method didn't fit into a multiple-choice world, so it slowly disappeared from the classroom. Not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. It made people independent thinkers. And independent thinkers don't just follow instructions. They question, they innovate, they challenge. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you learned something so deeply that you could explain it in your own words, teach it to someone else, and apply it in a totally different situation? That feeling of, I actually get this, that's what this method creates, over and over again. And once you experience it, going back to traditional studying feels like trying to see in black and white after discovering color. Now let's talk about what this method really looks like in practice, because this is where most people get it wrong. They think it is complicated. They think it requires special tools, expensive courses, or secret knowledge. It doesn't. It requires a shift in how you see learning itself. Instead of treating information like something you store, you treat it like something you build with. Imagine you're not a student, you're an architect. Every new idea is a brick, but instead of stacking bricks in a pile, you're constructing a structure. You decide where each brick goes. You connect it to the ones that came before. You test if it holds. If it doesn't, you adjust. This is why people who use this method can recall things years later, while others forget them in weeks. Their knowledge isn't a list. It's a network. Here's a simple example. Let's say you're learning about a historical event. The normal way is to memorize dates, names, and outcomes. The deep way is to ask, what caused this? Who benefited? Who lost? How did this change what came after? Can I see a similar pattern today? The moment you do that, the event stops being a fact and starts being a story. And the human brain is wired to remember stories, not lists. This is why great storytellers can hold your attention for hours. They're not just giving you information, they're guiding you through a journey. And that's what you need to do with your own learning. Turn every subject into a journey, every concept into a character, every problem into a challenge that needs to be solved. And here's where it gets even more powerful. When you learn this way, you stop being dependent on teachers, courses, or systems. You become self. You can pick up a book, watch a video, or listen to a podcast. And instead of passively consuming, you actively extract, connect, and reshape the ideas into something that fits your mind. This is why some people can teach themselves complex skills in months that others struggle with for years. They are not learning more. They are learning better. And once you see this, you start noticing something strange. The world is full of people who are incredibly busy, incredibly educated, and incredibly stuck. They've collected degrees, certificates, and credentials, but they haven't built understanding. On the other hand, you see people with no formal background who create, lead, and innovate at a high level. The difference is not access, it's approach. Let me make this practical for you. The next time you sit down to learn something, don't start by asking, what do I need to memorize? Start by asking, what is the core idea here? Then ask, how does this connect to something I already know? Then ask, where could I use this in real life? Finally, ask, how would I explain this to a 10-year-old? If you can do that, you don't just know it, you own it. And when you own knowledge, it becomes a tool, not a burden. Think about how different your life would be if every hour you spent learning actually multiplied in value over time instead of fading away. That's the promise of this method. Not more effort, more impact. So here's the real question. If this way of learning is so powerful, why isn't it the standard? Why isn't it taught in every school, in every classroom, to every student? The answer is uncomfortable. Systems are built to produce predictable results. This method produces unpredictable people. People who don't just follow instructions, but create their own. People who don't just accept answers, but challenge questions. That's not easy to manage on a large scale. It's much simpler to teach everyone the same thing in the same way and measure them with the same test. But simple doesn't mean effective, and deep don't. You already know this. We have felt the difference between memorizing something for a test and truly understanding something that changed how you see the world. One fades, the other stays with you. Now, imagine stacking those moments of true understanding, one on top of another, over months and years. That's how people build real expertise. Not through grinding, but through insight. Not through pressure, but through curiosity. And here's the part that should really make you pause. In a world where information is everywhere, the real advantage is not access. It's interpretation. Anyone can Google an answer. Very few people can see patterns, connect ideas, and create something new from what they find. That's what this method trains you to do. It turns you from a consumer of knowledge into a producer of insight. And that shift changes everything. Your confidence, your career, your creativity, the way people see you. Because when you can think clearly and explain complex things simply, Peopli Lizan, they trust you. They follow you. Let me be clear. This is not a study hack. This is a way of seeing the world, a way of turning every experience, every conversation, every problem into a lesson. And once you live like that, you're never really behind. You're always learning, always growing, always building something inside your mind that no one can take away from you. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this and move on. Try it today. Pick one thing you're learning right now. Just one. And instead of studying it the old way, use this method. Ask the questions. Build the connections. Tell the story. See what happens. Because once you feel the difference, you won't want to go back. And if this opened your eyes even a little, imagine what else you've never been taught that could change the way you think, work, and live. Stay curious. Stay sharp. And remember, the most powerful education is the one you give yourself.